I was just sipping some cinnamon tea. It was really zingy. Welcome to Irresistible You Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz, and I'm super excited about this because in the title of this episode is the word excitement. We're going to talk about following your highest excitement. And this concept comes from Bashar, who is a intergalactic being, I guess, who's channeled by a man named Daryl Anka. And he talks about when people don't know their purpose or don't know what to do in general, or they're trying to manifest something, just simply tapping in and asking yourself, okay, what is it that would produce the most excitement in me right now? What am I most excited to do? Because most of us have been conditioned to live from this place of have to. I have to go to work. I have to pick up my kids from karate. I have to cook dinner. I have to clean the house. I have to pay taxes. I have to do this and that and that. And if you simply choose to, number one, you can change your language around it. And I am very big on language. It's funny, for years, I compiled this list of empowering phrases and disempowering phrases. And I have to is right at the top of the list of those disempowering phrases. What do you replace it with? Well, there's lots of things you can say. I get to go to work. Because if you really think about it, you don't have to. It's a choice. Many people don't have a job. If you want the things that it pays for, then you get to work. At least you get to work somewhere, right? You don't have to work at that job. You could, if you choose, go get a different job, start your own business, start a charity. I mean, there's a zillion things you could do. You don't have to go to work at that job. You choose to, which is another way of phrasing it. I choose to go to work, because you are making that choice every single day that you go in or you don't. You're making a choice. So I love those. Like, I get to, I choose to. And then eventually you could even say, like, I want to, because why would you choose to do something if you didn't really want to? And back to the topic of excitement, if there is something, speaking of work, that you would rather be doing with your time that would utilize your gifts better, or that would light you up, that would be like, oh my gosh, I love going to work, then why not follow that highest excitement and start creating it? Whatever it takes. If you were to just take one tiny step every single day or one tiny step every single week, those would accumulate over time. And every time you take a step in the direction of your highest desire, something else happens, something opens up. You ever notice that? Like, when you're in a really pumped up mood, then people just gravitate to you and all kinds of interesting things happen. I just had this happen recently. I was out to dinner with a friend of mine who I'd never met in person, and we coached a leadership program together on Zoom. And I was in such an elevated state that somebody else came up and talked to me, somebody else that I made a connection with. And I find that really fascinating, because I've been to this area a zillion times by myself before, but I wasn't vibrating at that level. I wasn't excited, and it is contagious. And I have another story about this. It's a similar area. That's why it reminded me of it. But when I was a first time coach in this leadership program, I made this declaration, and in front of the group of coaches and students in the leadership container, that I would be in a committed monogamous relationship in, I don't remember how many days, like 90 days or something. And I hadn't dated in 2 years, or I hadn't dated much in 2 years. So I certainly hadn't been in a relationship in that amount of time. And having that as my intention, and I went out to Starbucks to do some work, because I work from home, and I used to go to Starbucks a lot to do work, just to be among the people, because it gets kind of boring working from home when you're an extrovert like I am. And I just had this in my mind, like, I'm just open. I'm open. And I was working. I was at my computer. I had my head down, and two men came up and talked to me. Two. Now, prior to that, nobody ever came up to me at Starbucks and talked to me like a romantically, like asking me out. And they both asked me out. One of them I said yes to. He wasn't a match, but still, it was like practice, like, okay, is it working? So simply setting the intention of how you want to be, it sets your frequency thermostat and you can hold that vibration wherever you go. So Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about creating opportunities. So he has you tune in to the frequency of opportunity. Let's say, for example, you are manifesting abundance or a new career or whatever it is, even a relationship. He will have you tune in to the frequency of opportunity. Now, the opportunity could be a romantic partner, it could be a business connection, it could be a client, it could be anything, whatever you're looking for, right? Like you want a new pair of shoes, you can tune into the frequency of those shoes. Like every single thing vibrates, whether we considered it to be alive or dead, whatever, inorganic. Everything has a frequency. So when you think about the thing that you want to manifest and you tune into the frequency of that thing, then you also tune into, okay, what am I going to feel when I have this thing or when this thing happens or whatever it is? And I've been playing a lot with this concept of quantum jumping. I don't know if you've heard it. It's been all over my Facebook feed, my YouTube feed, the advertisement from Mind Valley. So I actually checked it out. It's kind of fun. It I don't know that it would have been as meaningful if I hadn't have done a ton of Dr. Joe work first. But with that as my base, it's pretty easy for me to get the concept. So quantum jumping is based on this multiple universe theory from quantum physics, which means that at any given moment, we are swimming in a pool of potentials. And in this pool of potentials, every single thing that you could possibly imagine exists. And all you get to do is select that potential. And everything is happening simultaneously. So all the timelines are kind of stacked. So 10 years ago, it's here. 10 years from now, it's here. It's all happening right now, which I know might be far-fetched for some of you, but it's fun to play with, if nothing else. So just stay with me for a little bit. So in quantum jumping, you actually go to a different timeline or a different universe to a version of you that already has the thing, or they've already done the thing. And it's different in quantum jumping and in what Dr. Joe teaches. So I'm going to teach you the quantum jumping one first. So in quantum jumping, you actually talk to this wise person who's already done the thing. And this guy, oh, I can't remember his name, like Burt Goldman or something is his name. And in his 80s, he was picking up new skills like singing. Like he's like, I've never sung before, but I just tuned into the frequency of somebody who I love, their singing voice. And all of a sudden I could sing. And people loved my singing and they were offering me money to sing for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to try that one because people offer me money to stop singing. But I'll try it. All right, it'll be fun. That's a fun, inconsequential thing to play with. I love things like that that don't really matter. Like, say your bank account is at zero and you're manifesting $1 million. That is consequential. That freaking matters. So there's a lot more emotions around it. Whereas something like, oh, I want to sing opera. Let's see how that goes for me. Like, who cares? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Might as well play, right? So I love playing with things that don't matter to me that much. I find them easier while I'm learning the concepts than things that matter. Because anything that we say is important or we think is important, our subconscious mind reads that as it's important to my survival. Therefore, if I don't do this right or perfectly or whatever, I could die. So, play with that. Like next time you think something's important, you're setting yourself up for failure because you are taking away your ability to be creative, your ability to have logic, and you're putting yourself in your survival mind. So you're either going to get a really strong jaw so you can bite somebody, which doesn't usually get me what I want. I don't know. Not since I was like one. Or you get really strong limbs so you can run or punch somebody. And usually that's not all that helpful to humans. So back to what this guy does, Bert Goldman in quantum jumping, is he has conversations with this wise version of himself. Now, this is not another person. It's a wise version of himself that's already mastered the skill or already has the thing that he wants to have. So, say you want to be a TEDx speaker, you would jump timelines and you would talk to the version of you that had already done it successfully. And you can ask questions like, okay, how'd you do it? What was your first step? Like, how did you meet people? Like, how did you do your talk? Like, whatever it is, how'd you choose your topic? Whatever your questions are. And then here's the thing, you bring that back to this timeline, to this body, and you actually do the thing. You do the thing they tell you. Now, what Dr. Joe does is a bit different. He has one meditation, he has tons, right? Where you actually tune in to the frequency of that version of you that's already done all the things. And then you feel what they're feeling. You match their frequency. So if it's up here, and then from this place where I am right now, you draw that version to you and you actually become one. And then you come back to this timeline with all the wisdom, all the knowledge, the frequency, the emotions, the faith that it's already done. And you then create it from this place. And it takes a very short amount of time because you've already done it. So it's like people that have created $1 million businesses and it took them like 20 years to create it. Their next one might take them 2 years or 5 months or whatever. Usually the time is very short, or at least very much shortened the next time you go to do something, because you already know what to avoid, what mistakes not to make, and what really moved the needle in getting you there. So either way, it's super fun to play with. And then adding in this concept of Bashar's, like following your highest excitement. So if you really drop in, I don't think a lot of women or even people in general actually take time to dream and say, okay, what excites me the most right now of all the infinite possibilities of things I could do? What would excite me the most? Do you ever do that? Or do you go on autopilot and say, oh, I'll just scroll for a couple minutes and then, 3 hours goes by? I'm guilty of that. Or you put on a show on Netflix and then, 3 episodes later, you're still there. What if next time you had a few minutes of downtime, or next time you created a few minutes of downtime, you actually tapped in? You said, what would excite me the most to do right now, this minute? It's so fun to think about the infinite possibilities. Maybe you call a friend and that friend says, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you because this. And it opens up this whole thing that you never would have known about if you hadn't have followed your highest desire. And what usually happens is your vibration gets so high when you are following your highest desire that the next step appears. And you're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this now. And now I want to do this. And now I want to do this. And you end up on a path of just excitement. And when you're in that place of excitement and bliss and joy and connection and oneness with the divine, you cannot help but draw amazing things to you. You can't help it because that's the frequency you're vibrating at. Now think about if you were bored. I'm guessing you know what frequency is, but let me just break it down. Every single emotional state has a frequency. It is measurable in hertz. So it vibrates either very slowly or quickly. And Abraham Hicks popularized this thing called the emotional guidance scale. And in it, there's 22, I believe, emotions. At the very bottom, the lowest vibrational frequency is shame and despair and hopelessness. At the very top, oh, I don't remember it, but it's something like oneness with God, like elation, bliss. And somewhere in the middle is contentment. Now, up one maybe from hopelessness is like depression, and up seven from depression is anger. So sometimes when people are depressed and then they become angry, that is actually 7 levels higher. They're vibrating so much higher. But the people around them are like, oh no, I liked you better depressed. But really, they're climbing out of it. So it's a good idea to take a look at that and just notice in any moment, okay, what's my state? Right now, what's my state? And you can see where you are on that scale. And I don't recommend like resisting where you are, but just acknowledging it like, okay, right now I'm experiencing some anger. And then I would ask some questions like, what are you here for? What are you here to tell me? Because anger and fear are physiological responses to perceived threats. So, what am I afraid of? If you're angry, check in. What am I afraid of? What am I perceiving? Not me, but what is your subconscious mind below your level of awareness perceiving as a threat? Usually, when this happens, it's perceiving something that happened in your past as a threat. And the subconscious mind only thinks in the present tense. So when we get angry, we think it's because, our mate left the toilet seat up. But really, that reminded us of something that happened in the past. And we're reacting to that thing in the past. The only purpose of an emotion is your subconscious mind is trying to get you to take an action. It wants you to do something so that you don't get hurt 20 years ago or last week or 50 years ago or whatever, but sometime in the past. And really, is that useful? Is that emotion useful to you? Can you do anything to not get hurt anytime in the past? No. So anger and fear are almost never useful unless somebody's chasing you with a knife. Then you don't really need to have those chemicals going through your body. Well, we don't usually have saber-toothed tigers chasing us anymore, but occasionally, you might have an older brother or somebody chasing you. Maybe somebody fun. Well, that'd be fun. I'm just saying, I might as well play with it. So I love these concepts, following your highest excitement and then noticing, checking in, where am I vibrating right now? Check out the emotional guidance scale. It's everywhere, all over the internet. You can Google it. You can see the image. You can print it, get the pictures. It's from the book Ask and It Is Given, I believe. I know it's in there. That's the first place I ever saw it, by Abraham Hicks. But you can take a look at it. And then once you acknowledge those feelings, you're like, okay, I'm experiencing anger. And you want to check in, what is this for? What does this want me to pay attention to? Because your subconscious mind wants you to take an action. It wants you to pay attention to something. And if you can hone in, okay, feeling angry, like your first level, because my partner left the toilet seat up. Okay, what does that remind me of? Or what feelings does it bring up? It feels like I don't matter or I don't feel respected. Great. Okay, great. When else have I felt like I didn't matter or I wasn't respected? And then you just keep following it, going deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to the root. And then you can say to yourself, thank you. That event is over with. There's nothing for me to do. Nothing for me to do. It's over. Right now, I'm okay. I'm okay. And it's okay to be okay. And you can just process it this way. And then once you feel like that's complete, because we don't ever want to resist anything, once you feel like that's complete, you can go on to another step. Like, okay, what would be exciting for me right now in this moment? What would be exciting for me to do? And just check in with it. Like, oh, I want to skip down the street in my polka dot bikini. Beautiful. Go do it. Okay, now what would be exciting? Oh, I want to cook dinner because I really am in the mood for this. Great, cook dinner. Now what would be most exciting? What if you lived your life that way, like one exciting thing to the next? I mean, gosh, how much fun would it be? And how much closer would you be to manifesting a life that you are freaking in love with, that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is my life. So I invite you to try this out. Follow your highest excitement and let me know how it goes. Comment below, share this video with anybody who's stuck in a rut or who keeps beating themselves up because they're not manifesting or they're not whatever. Somebody who might want some support with language, like, oh, I have to do this, or uh, anything where you feel like you are not at cause, that you are a victim of anything. And I don't mean it like victimy victim, but I mean where something could be done to you or you don't have control over your circumstances, because following your highest desire will give you so much more control over what happens to you. You become the creator, and you're a conscious creator of experiences that freaking light you up. Who doesn't want that? So play with me. It'll be fun. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'll see you right here next week. Bye.